But just as how there is muscle protein synthesis, there's also muscle protein breakdown. So let's talk about muscle protein synthesis versus muscle protein breakdown. In order to grow muscle, what you need is to be building it faster or more than it is breaking down. So the objective in hypertrophy training is for your muscle protein synthesis to exceed muscle protein breakdown. So when you are trying to be anabolic and build muscle, you want to avoid extreme catabolic activities such as fasting, which is very catabolic, and there is no such thing as anabolic fasting, just so you know. All right, and you certainly do not want to be doing what is called fasted cardio or fasted exercise, which is something that people who are trying to lose weight will do with very high effectiveness. But when you are in a fasted state, your degradation of muscle protein exceeds its synthesis. So you should avoid fasting for too long. In the morning, you should break your fast sooner rather than later, and you certainly should not be working out before breaking your fast, all right, if you are trying to grow muscle. Now, some of you are out there probably wondering, well, what about intermittent fasting? That is a huge health craze fad that is great for certain people with certain health conditions, such as myself. I have really bad digestive system issues, all right, a number of health problems with my digestive system. So intermittent fasting is good for me to do like once a year to sort of clean out my digestive system, all right, and I really find that it helps with my stomach pain to do that once in a while. But while intermittent fasting may be good for some people, it's not good for people who are trying to build muscle and do not really need it. Fasting is just not good for muscle growth, even when it is intermittent. And that's something that I'm also getting from Dr. Lane Norton, PhD. But now let's get into how muscle protein synthesis and breakdown actually function. Well, after muscle protein synthesis has been completed for a certain muscle, then it begins to break down. This happens after only just 5 days, which is again why training each muscle group less frequently than that is simply not effective. So in order to build a muscle, you must be training it at least 2 times per week at minimum. At least every 3 to 4 days, you need to train that muscle in order to prevent muscle loss. All right. However, that is just a minimum. Okay, and muscle protein synthesis does peak at around 24 to 48 hours and is falling after that. So for athletes who want peak performance or maximum muscle growth, you should be stimulating your muscles' anabolic responses even sooner than the last muscle protein synthesis has been completed or fallen off too much. All right, but rather you should be doing it soon after it has peaked. You don't want to wait to work out again until after muscle protein synthesis has been completely finished and is no longer occurring. You want to work out again as soon after it has peaked as possible. So that's why ideally you should be training every muscle group about once every 48 hours. So that's why traditionally most bodybuilders, at least old school ones, always train on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday full body split. However, as I said, the more years of experience you have, the quicker MPS takes place and the sooner breakdown and loss of gains will occur. So you'll need more frequent training the longer you have been training. Or will need to train much harder so that your muscle protein synthesis takes longer. But you don't really want to be training at a low frequency and overcompensating for that by training really hard with really heavy weights and a really high volume every time that you train. Many people do this, thinking that the key to hypertrophy is to cause as much damage in one session as possible. But that is simply not the case, all right? Your muscle protein synthesis will still peak at 24 to 48 hours, even if you've done more damage that takes longer to recover from, all right? That's something I learned from the T-Nation website, by the way. So what happens is when you are overloading one session and training very hard, you are actually causing so much damage that your body is not growing more from it. It's not causing that much more muscle growth. All right, you may be causing this much more damage, but only getting this much more growth. However, what you will be getting from training that much harder is more inflammation and aches and pains and issues with your joints and connective tissue and injury proclivity. So this is why you should only be training as hard as your muscles can recover from in the next 2 days or so. And to return to that concept of the anabolic window, well, since muscle protein synthesis doesn't start for at least a few hours after training, and muscle protein synthesis is an ongoing process that is taking place for the next few days, and from the time you eat a protein source and it gets broken down by the digestive system and resynthesized into proteins in your muscle, it takes about a day for your body to process and utilize any proteins you've eaten. All right, when you eat a protein source, your digestive tract has to break it down and absorb it and circulate the amino acids, and then your body will synthesize them again, and that is a long, slow process. All right, so the anabolic window is a ridiculous concept because in the 30 minutes to an hour after your workout, any protein that you intake is not going to be utilized in your system until a day or two from now. And there's no reason your system wouldn't be able to utilize it if you had consumed that an hour later or 2 hours later. All right, it's still going to go through the same exact process of muscle protein synthesis, which will still take a couple of days. And any protein that your body is utilizing after your workout is coming from the previous day and whatever meals you ate then. All right, so that is why the anabolic window is not a scientific concept. There's absolutely no reason why eating specific things in the hour post-workout is going to make any sort of big difference. What matters is your net daily protein intake, or how much protein you are getting throughout the day, each day added up. And the timing does actually matter, but not in that the timing has to be done, right before a workout and right after it. But what does matter when it comes to timing is how your protein intake is being spaced out throughout the day.